Pictures can speak to you. Pictures make you think, make you feel. Pictures piqued Greg Gorman's interest at an early age, and he hasn't stopped since.
Well, it was the morning after I took my first pictures. I borrowed a friend of mine's camera, knowing nothing about photography whatsoever, to go to a Jimi Hendrix concert in Kansas City at Municipal Auditorium. And it was a buddy of mine I used to go hunting and fishing with in Kansas City. And I said, what should I do? He says, set the camera at f5.6, 60th of a second, shoot tri-X at 400. And so the next morning I processed the pictures in his darkroom, and when I saw those images coming up on this white piece of paper, I was pretty well hooked.
That's where his incredible journey begins. He heads to Los Angeles, driven simply by a passion to capture through the lens.
Well, I think it's a communication with the people. I mean, you know, the rock and roll definitely was the impetus to get started with photography, but it became much more so as I realized that cinematography wasn't for me either, because I was too much of a control freak. I've always been a control freak, so I kind of like that one-on-one communication connection with people when I'm shooting.
And as he polished his craft, the projects got bigger. He became a part of Hollywood, photographing the A-list of stars, many times for movie promotions. Finding the key was not just about a good camera, good lighting, a good eye.
What is the key when you get somebody in the studio to taking a great picture?
For me, it was being part psychologist, a little bit magician, basically being a good conversationalist, being able to come up or down to these people's levels, sometimes up, sometimes down, but whatever, to kind of garner their trust. And basically, for me, it was involving them often in the shoots. So it all begins with the talent coming. I'll do a little homework generally, but I never like to be influenced by the pictures that I've seen. I like to create my own images. And I never was influenced, and that was a good thing, by what people told me about a celebrity.
How do you, obviously what you want to do is you want to bring out their best, you know, in every photo session. But that's not a thing that you do technically with the camera. That's a personality trait. How do you bring out their best?
Yeah, it's making them be part of the shoot. A lot of it's breaking bread with them, Mike. A lot of it is basically, I always have had my own chef who's basically catered and cooked. We've always made sure that we know what the parameters of what they like to eat and all is, and we usually break bread prior to a shoot. And then they go into hair and makeup. Well, that's a good place for me to kind of sit down and just have a conversation with them. And the whole time that I'm having that conversation, without them really being aware of it, I'm kind of clocking their face, kind of see which angles I want to play up in the highlights, which ones I kind of want to play down in the shadows.
Through it all, he has dined with and photographed big screen's biggest and best, like Leonardo DiCaprio.
And Leo was one of the most extraordinary people I ever shot in my career, because he never was concerned about, let's say, being too masculine or too feminine. He came in and wanted to do a great photo session. He was someone that really understood photography, and most actors are more comfortable playing a character other than themselves, so they could hide behind that kind of facade, Mike, as opposed to being who they are. I remember with Dustin Hoffman on Tootsie, he was a wreck doing pictures as Dustin. The Michael Dorsey character, the Tootsie character, Dorothy character, he was fine.
Oh, the stories, they are plentiful. What you've seen isn't always what you would think, like Raquel Welch.
And she's to this day a very good friend and a gorgeous woman. And like a lot of the talent, you know, very, very insecure woman. She'd hate for me to say that, but I would say it to her face, so I'm not telling you something that I don't say to Raquel. She's such a beautiful woman. And but, you know, with the hair and the makeup, it takes forever to get through hair and makeup, and for her to feel comfortable and confident. You know, it's amazing how many of these people are really insecure. Amazing. This isn't just natural light. The light's coming off the makeup mirror lights in the background, and just a little brush from the side, which is actually coming from a reflector, not a light.
These days, you can find him doing more teaching to the photographers. He is offering advice on how his craft has changed, but how it has stayed the same. It will always be about the camera operator and the ability to not just shoot a picture, but to feel for a subject.
I teach a course in basically how to see light, how to understand light, and how to communicate with the talent. I mean, today everybody's a photographer. Just ask them, they all own Photoshop. So the irony today is with autofocus, auto exposure cameras, anybody can be a photographer. And they put that camera on automatic, Mike, they get that one shot, they think they're the next superstar. And then someone comes up to them and says, you know, I really like that picture, I'd love a picture like that. They'd be hard-pressed to reproduce that photograph because they had no idea what they did.
What he's learned is the perfect person is not based on a look, but a personality.
An openness and willingness to play and have fun and not be caught up with, I can only be shot from this angle, you can't shoot from this angle. If a person's relaxed, I mean, I've do lots of shoots with people that I wouldn't say are necessarily superly attractive people. But given enough time to work with them and explore angles and lighting, I can make anybody look pretty good. And I don't mean that to sound egotistical, but everybody can look good in a picture if they're willing to be open and accessible. If they're not accessible, if someone shuts down, then it's not going to happen.
It's been quite a ride for Gorman. He's lived the life he dreamed of, and he's done it with a joy. One that is what everyone wants in a career and in a life.
It happens so fast, The real crux of the real intense part of the career. I mean, when I started and I did Tootsie and Big Chill and Scarface and all these movies, they all happened in a very short, finite period of time. And then that kind of, just like anything, it just kind of sets up the building block for the rest of your life. So, I just feel very fortunate that it all kind of happened that way. I'm glad it happened then, not today.
Life to the Max is brought to you by Life Touch. Photography for a lifetime.